with today's meeting. What we're going to do, because we actually are still waiting on our special guest speaker who is going to be here today to talk about a medical bill that will be introduced come session coming January 2015. And so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start my presentation, and then we'll see if our guest speaker is here by then. If not, we're going to move on to our most likely testimonial reading. And so we'll go ahead and start up now. For those who were here last meeting, I'm pretty much going to be repeating a lot of what I said last meeting. So a few of you have already heard my presentation, but I'm sure you all won't mind hearing it again. So let me start out by saying hello and welcome to our P.A.C.T. Empowerment meeting today. Very good to see you guys out. Special thanks to District Representative Donna Howard for sponsoring this patient meeting. Special thanks for Frank for getting that arranged for us. And, the primary objective of P.A.C.T. is to create an atmosphere, a safe place for patients, parents, and caregivers with similar struggles to share their experiences and become empowered in finding their voice in order to engage themselves in the process of changing laws here in Texas. While P.A.C.T. is also here to provide some support, understanding, and consolation, let's remember that our number one goal is to prepare you for a legislative session. To help you attain the correct knowledge, manner, etiquette, and discipline required in order to address the Texas legislature adequately and with determined self-assurance. P.A.C.T. is a legislative patient support and empowerment group, and we do not advocate or encourage in the illegal production and or the distribution of cannabis extracts, concentrates, hash oils, etc. Let me begin our discussion today by expressing that there is a major difference between that of a patient and that of an empowered patient. A huge difference. An empowered patient always conveys a strong sense of awareness of their circumstances, of themselves, and the trial in which they endure continuously. An empowered patient conveys a willingness to always learn, to grow, and to evolve in order to attain a greater quality of life. And what does it mean to be empowered? To be empowered means to increase our individual capacity to make choices and to transform those choices into desired actions and outcomes. It's a process of self-awareness, of self-mastery, a process of thinking and acting decisively, cutting through the intimidation and fear factors, and achieving clarity of what really matters within rapidly changing circumstances. This is the one single area you have complete control over. The place where you can make the biggest difference of all in your own life and in the lives of others who need cannabis as medicine but do not have the means to advocate or express themselves. We become fully empowered and master ourselves by confronting our own personal demons, our own personal dragons, by confronting these enemies to our own health and happiness that can attack, overrun, and rule over us if we let them. It has to come from the inside, for it's the only way we can win that battle that keeps us held back, that keeps us silent, that keeps us locked away in the dark. An empowered patient is one who musters the courage to step boldly into and beyond fear. One who can create favorable conditions for themselves, act responsibly in their own best interests and in the interests of others. One who can protect themselves and their loved ones and show up when it matters most. If you want something bad enough, you have the power to make it happen. No matter what other people have to say, no matter how tough the odds may appear, the more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. The exact principles that make for our effectiveness in any mental battle are just as relevant in the daily challenges we face. It's part psychology, part strategy and tactics, part drive, but most importantly, it's about having heart. Never let anyone discourage you from your goals to be assertive, no matter how big or small, because no one can ever guess how much you're capable of doing. You're the only one who can decide that. Remember, taking that first step is where the first act of empowerment really begins. You have to create little moments of victory for yourself, no matter how small or how long they last. For those are the moments that can carry you through the next big challenge. And know there's always another challenge just waiting around the corner. It's about molding that ball of energy, for within that is where the culmination of our efforts can harness what's required to empower ourselves and maintain the momentum to get our message through. The challenge is that focus is like a laser beam. Move a little to the left or right, or add a little forward some distance, and the laser either misses the target completely or diffuses to such an extent that it acts like a poor flashlight. If focus is where our mind, body, and spirit converge to create specific action in the present, then doubt, second-guessing, hesitation, the unknown, stress, pain, and fear are the obstacles that diminish the quality of our laser-like focus. Remember, we cannot lead ourselves onto the legislative battleground unless we are familiar with the face of its terrain, its setting, how it works, and the manner that is required to address it. It's time to get familiar with your Texas State Capitol. This building does not belong to the politicians, to the lawmakers. It belongs to you, the constituents. And so stroll down the hallways, experience the art gallery of governor portraits along the main rotunda. Get a map, learn the floor plan, how it's structured, how the elevator works. I can guarantee that at some time or another we have all gotten lost in this building. Get to know the setting, how the public hearing room is laid out, where the committee members sit, how we should dress, what our manner and etiquette should be. Get to know how the political process works, how a bill becomes law, how these public hearings are conducted. We typically do not know in advance when these public hearings will be scheduled. Therefore, it is only right that we stay respectful to the rules of the game and its unpredictable nature, which in turn can only help us better prepare. We can never predict how these hearings will be conducted, so it is imperative that we always have our knowledge, etiquette, and manner always at the ready. One just never knows when they'll be called upon. You could be the first, you could be the last, you could be right in the middle. What we don't want is to be some chess piece stuck in a corner that wants to move but cannot. No one wants to get trapped on the public hearing floor. Testifying at a public hearing, be it your first time or not, can be an intimidating experience. It all comes down to having an awareness of our own strengths and weaknesses, an accurate understanding of the process of legislation, and us always seeking a higher aim than just momentary satisfaction. There is good reason for getting familiar. It's about distraction, and what we want is to eliminate that distraction. What we want for you to not be nervous and or intimidated, but to be relaxed and attentive to your sole objective. It's important that you become as familiar as possible, because the more familiar you become, the less reason you have to be fearful, nervous, and or intimidated, which will allow you to harness and focus your energies on giving the best credible testimonial you can. This way you're not lost. One who knows these things and in fighting puts their knowledge, manner, and discipline into practice will win these battles. One who knows them not nor practices them will surely be defeated. There are many ways in making our presence known when it comes to getting our message across. It can begin with a simple phone call or an email to your district representative, your state senator. It is you they want to hear from, their constituents, for it is you who can participate in making that change happen. Of course, when it comes to speaking with our state representatives one-to-one, one must maintain that same courtesy, respect, and manner as you would any other professional environment. It is not our right to force our will on anyone or anything, which is why the need to maintain our professionalism, etiquette, and mannerisms. Being empowered does not mean bullying. Our goal as advocates, as constituents, is to make sure our state representatives not only become aware of our issues and concerns, but that they also make sure that they get a full understanding of where we are coming from before any legislative session can begin. This can have a great influence on having whatever bill we are seeking to push to be introduced much earlier in session than later. It's quite challenging to get anything accomplished when introduced late in session. If we want or expect to be taken seriously by our representatives, then it's up to us to convey ourselves with the right demeanor, be it through a phone conversation, an email, and or in person. Now when it comes to arranging an in-person meeting, make sure when you schedule it that you do everything in your power to make that meeting. It's imperative to not only show respect and courtesy, but to show some class and consideration for our opposition as well. Though there is the occasional time when we simply cannot make it to the meeting, most legislative aides or staffers will understand and allow you to reschedule. What we don't want is to create a negative mark for ourselves and the issue we are standing up for by repeatedly canceling our meetings or by simply not following through. That alone can make a state representative less inclined to want to hear what we have to say. It's about breaking through the stereotypes, setting an example of professionalism, far away from what they would think of or see as your typical stoner. It's in what we say, it's in how we dress, it's in how we carry ourselves and our mannerisms that make the biggest difference of all. It is your right as constituents of this state to express your issues and concerns to your state representatives. That's why they are here. They are here to represent and be the voice of the people, to be the voice for you. Remember, it is only us patients, caregivers, and parents who are thoroughly acquainted with the consumption of disease, the nature of its symptoms, and the discriminations of man toward disability. It is only us patients who can thoroughly understand the level of compassion truly required and what it takes to address our needs. We all understand the trial of disease and disability and what comes with that trial. It is my belief that way too many people have become a slave to the current medical system and its corrupted ways. All too often we trust our physician's knowledge over that of our own, when really there is no better moderator of our bodies than ourselves. We know what our bodies can take and what our bodies cannot take. We know when we're in pain, when we're not in pain. I alone cannot tell you what to express in your own testimonial, for only you can describe the trial, the life in which you have endured, the nature of your symptoms. Only you know of your own experiences and how cannabis has benefited your lives medicinally, and or maybe your child's life. You have to have the confidence in yourself, and this confidence should be based on fact when writing your testimonial. As patients and advocates, we encompass a whole world of feelings, images, ideas, emotion, and passion. And in order to connect directly with the opposition, we should begin by capturing something which the opposition holds dear, by making it personal and stating how this issue affects us all. Only then will the Texas legislature be amenable to our will. A strong testimony generates the conviction that life will be beautiful, the future secure, and that we will have the capacity to overcome the challenges that cross our paths. In speaking of testimonials, it has been very good to see a lot of us jumping on this as early as we have. The months are flying by, and before we know it, legislative session will have begun. It's been great to see the overlapping of other like-minded organizations, alliances, groups, etc. This is a very good thing to see because it shows unity in mass, which is exactly what we want. One group that has recently jumped on board comes from the Drug Policy Alliance, which you'll come to know here in Texas as Texans for Medical Freedom. We are, of course, gathering patient testimonials to prepare packets for legislators right now. So Texans for Medical Freedom have provided us with a consent form, so make sure you pick one up on your way out. If you are interested in Texans for Medical Freedom to include your testimonial within their packets, this form will give them permission to do so. So definitely pick one up. As we head into this upcoming session, let me say that yes, we have reason to be optimistic, considering the amount of publicity and exposure we've been getting throughout the year. The momentum has been growing and continues to grow, and by any means, we should not sway from keeping that momentum going, regardless of the outcome of the 2015 legislative session. We need to take this venture into legislative session as a learning opportunity. Like I said, the outcomes may not be as we hoped or to our satisfactory, and if things do not turn out that way, don't let it derail you or your individual efforts in any way. Like I stated earlier, you have to create little moments of victory for yourself, no matter how small or how long they last. Those are the moments that carry you, for they show what you have learned, how you've grown, and how you've evolved, which can indeed help and be applied through the next big challenge. The more we condition ourselves for the task in the future, the better our skills will be. The better the skills are, the easier the task is to perform, and the less energy it takes to perform it. Developing skills like attention to detail, strategic thinking, and effective communication can create powerful weapons that, when aimed at a specific target, yield dramatic results that you can be proud of. A lot of people make a choice. Few people have the courage to start. Rarely do people have the commitment to finish. The people who do finish have the guts to get through the losses along the way in order to reach the victory at the end. Ultimately, the more familiar you are with an environment, the less fear and or intimidation you have of that environment. The way to conquer fear is to move into and through it. Imagine it as a veiled paper, thin mist, and just walk through it. It's like fog. Sometimes a fog seems as dense as stone, but if you keep walking, putting one foot in front of the other, all of a sudden it's gone. Suddenly you can see everything. It helps to imagine fear as a paper-thin mist. Once you walk through this paper-thin mist, it's clear on the other side. Your fear is eventually behind you. And with that is pretty much my presentation. But our guest speaker has arrived, and I would like to go ahead and lead right into that. I'd like to introduce Ms. Heather Fazio of the Marijuana Policy Project.